So this is possibly his very first letter written. There are many biblical scholars who assume that this is the first one written, 1 Thessalonians. You remember that on his second missionary journey, he had crossed over from Asia into Europe, beginning with some success in Philippi, and then he had come down to Thessalonica. And it's here where he had some pretty good initial success until the leaders of the synagogue there in Thessalonica rose up, and he had to quickly leave and go down to Athens. And now Silas and Timothy have joined him, and they brought word of what's going on in Thessalonica. And so he pens a letter to be sent back to them. And this is that letter, this first epistle of the Thessalonians. And again, some biblical scholars will tell you this is our earliest New Testament writing of the 27 books. Whether or not that's true, I'm not sure, but there's pretty good evidence that this is very early, at least, in his ministry as an apostle. So the theme that, there are many themes here, but one of them to watch for is this idea of you have heaven, here we are on the earth, and here you have this group on the earth who are looking and waiting and watching for the second coming of the Savior to come down from heaven and reestablish his kingdom.
Which had all been promised.
It's all been promised. Remember, in the Old Testament, there were two sets of prophecies concerning the Messiah. Prophecies of his first coming to the earth from heaven, his condescension, when he would come down like a lamb and be slain for the sins of the world. And then the second coming prophecies when he would come down like a lion and take upon his shoulders the government of the people and overthrow all the kingdoms of the earth. So they're waiting for this second coming. And when we get into this epistle to the Thessalonians, if you read it, just straight up let Paul's words be what they are on the page, he makes it sound very much like the second coming is imminent, like it could be next week for them. And so it's going to cause some issues with those people at that time. And you're going to see an overcorrection later on in because of this epistle, and then he's going to correct that with his second letter to them, the 2 Thessalonians.
Where he basically says, heaven is going to come back. Jesus will come back. But it is not our job just to sit around waiting for good to happen, but we should be anxiously engaged in a good cause. And it's interesting how we can watch God's leaders preach, teach truth, and also provide course correction when either there's new information or there's been some misunderstanding or an opportunity to upgrade people's thinking and to help them be more aligned with what will help them to find joy right now and be aligned to God.
I love that finding joy in the journey right now, as President Monson used to say. It's that idea of don't become so hyper-focused on the final exam that you end up failing multiple daily and weekly quizzes along the way because you're so focused on the end that you're missing the means. Well, if that's happening, then once the end does come, it's not going to go well. So this whole lesson is an invitation for us to focus on bringing the heavenly into our life more fully than ever before today. We're not teaching this for next week. We're not teaching this for a month from now. It's for today and every day. What can I do to invite more heaven into my little part of the vineyard here on earth so that it becomes more and more and more a branch of heaven, an outpost of heaven, so to speak.